Hi, I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
And Misha Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? MMAzing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host, Dr. Law. With me, as always, DJ Mark.
What's up?
Also joining me this week, my fellow PS5 brother, Kid Presentable.
Cool Kid Trophy unlocked.
That's right. Finally, joining us this week, a man who, like me, this weekend learned that we've all been wasting our times breaking down fights based on technique or skill or anything like that. Is just a matter of who has the better family. Lavender Gooms is here, folks.
Hey guys, you can't see it because this is an audio medium, but my Google Meets background is the face-off between the Torettos.
Yes. Dominic and Jake. Because it's Vin Diesel and John Cena look like siblings, clearly. Because muscles are a trait.
I may be getting into spoiler territory for stuff you guys like, but for a guy who's so big on family, why did we only just hear about this brother?
Yeah, never talked about Jake before.
Oh, we talked about that in the movie. Because
do we address it? Do we address
it? It is addressed in the movie, and it's addressed in the movie in, I don't want to say typical Fast and Furious fashion. I want to say in typical Fast and Furious 1 through 3 fashion.
Yes. By the way, in about 45 minutes, we are going to spoil the hell out of Fast and the Furious 9. But let me tell you, if you were, no one's on the fence about this movie. You already saw it, or you just hate us for talking about it. So that's where you stand. All right, boys and girls. A lot of MMA podcasts also taking off this week. Not us, guys. We know where our bread is buttered. When the 145-pound Irishman comes to town, that's where we get those views, folks. So when we get those views. This weekend,
only show in town.
We got, there's no card for another week. Like, nobody's doing anything. We got UFC 264. Some might say, oh, this is a big event because it's the return to Las Vegas. Other people will say this is a big event because it is the return of Conor goddamn McGregor. The UFC's number one pay-per-view star. UFC going for a really good summer here because coming off their number 2 pay-per-view star fought last month in Nate Diaz. If only they could figure out what's going on with John Jones. We got ourselves Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, the trilogy. A fight that I will say honestly, I'm happy to see these guys fight in general, but I did not need to see a third 3 different times. My feelings are that we only have maybe 3 or 4 more Conor McGregor fights. And maybe we could have him fight somebody new. Just a thought. And if he loses this one, he's definitely fighting Nate Diaz. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. There's no news to speak of this week. Nothing's happening. I did see Dana White disputing that Tyron Woodley saying that he made more money. He's making more money in this boxing match than he ever did as UFC champion. And then Dana White said he's full of shit. And nobody believes Dana White. So yeah. And you see that UFC fighter has a GoFundMe that Jake Paul donated 10 grand to. That's another one.
Nice.
I mean, based on Dana White with, he also said that to Francis's manager recently, saying this guy's so full of shit. So that kind of is the Dana White tell of he's full of shit is code for, man, why is this guy speaking the truth in front of all these media outlets?
You know what it is, man? Stefan, you backdoored into actually remembering the news of this week. We got ourselves apparently an interim heavyweight title fight. Is it next pay-per-view, actually, if I'm not mistaken? I think it's UFC.
Houston, yeah.
UFC 265. Derek Lewis, Cyril Gane for the interim UFC heavyweight championship. Now, here's the situation. The champion, Francis Ngannou, is going home. Cameroon. All right? There was this thing going on for the last year, the pandemic. You might have heard about it. Hard to go places. He wanted to see his family. He told the UFC, hey, man, hey, guys, I can't, we talked about this last week, didn't we? Now that I think about it. But yeah, he talked. He said that I can't do it. I can do it 3 weeks after that. And the UFC's like, nah, man, this heavyweight title needs to be. We need to book it immediately. And then Dana White shit on Francis's manager, who is we now know is a good manager, right, Mark? That's how we learn if someone's a good manager.
Well, I mean, you told me he was, so I believe whatever
anytime Dana White has a problem with the manager, that means it's a good manager.
Yeah, the news was mostly that like this manager kind of slapped back, and we've had some management teams and fighters, do that, and it hasn't really worked out so far. But maybe this team is, and I mean, Francis is kind of a big enough dog to be able to pull more than some of the other times they've been challenged because he's the heavyweight championship of the UFC. So that's kind of a big stick to carry around. I mean, he wants to get paid for it, and I don't think that's wrong. So we'll see. He just wants to fight.
He just wants to fight when he gets back home.
A month later than they wanted, and we did talk about it last week. It seemed like it was business as usual. But, I do hope that these guys can ultimately get management that will benefit them, and they'll be able to renegotiate contracts that make more sense instead of having, when you actually hear about these contracts, there's a lawsuit I just brought out, like, it's kind of crazy and ridiculous, like how little they get paid and how much they have to do to get to a certain degree to get paid. And if they're not in that tier, how much they don't. And it's just like, and then they like, oh, when they want to renew a contract, it's like, well, you already signed up for 5. So how about 8-10 fights? Like, wasn't Anderson had like a 10-fight deal that was going to go to like 2025?
I think Anderson finished it too, was the impressive part. I think he did all 10
it's just
fights.
Some of them, they get crazy, but
well, you know what happened, Mike? It was like a month or so ago where Francis Ngannou was complaining about all this, these YouTubers making big boxing money. And he said, what are we doing wrong? And then Nate Diaz said, hey man, this is not a we situation. You got to ask what you're doing wrong. And then we have this going on. I feel Francis Ngannou has got himself a real rude awakening on how this shit's going on, how this shit's happening these days, huh?
Yeah, I think if he hasn't already found this out, he's going to find out very soon that you can get on Dana White's shit list very quickly if you're not a star who's bringing in 1 million+ pay-per-view buys. He took Conor McGregor shit and to a lesser extent Nate Diaz's shit because he knows they bring in dollars and revenue. With Francis Ngannou, we're not entirely sure on that yet, and Dana White for sure is of that camp. And he's got the numbers in front of him. For Dana White, he has a line of demarcation of, I'm not going to take this bullshit from this champ at any given moment.
Basically. So we'll see where that goes. But screw it. Let's just get into talking about UFC 264. As I mentioned, this is the first UFC card to be back in Las Vegas that isn't at the Apex since... I think it was I think at least, I mean, I'm trying to think before the pandemic when they were even in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a while.
March, maybe.
Or maybe March. Maybe the last pay-per-view there. It was a very sweet moment here where Mark...
Sorry, did you go to me right as my wife walked in?
Well, no, we all paused and waved at her. Really is what happened.
Okay.
I was actually scratching John Cena's under chin. Actually, I wasn't waving.
Mike's really adding to this audio podcast here right now. Anyway, UFC 264 back in Vegas, sold out at the T-Mobile Arena. A beautiful arena. It's got a Shake Shack in it, among other stuff. No champions on this card because we'd have to pay them a lot of money, and that's not going to work when we're paying Conor McGregor a lot of money.
You don't need him. This card's great.
Dustin Poirier said his base salary for the Conor fight is 4 times what it would be for a title fight. Which, damn. Well, damn. Yeah.
I guess because of pay-per-view points, right? That's probably it's probably not his come-in win bonus.
I think you know what? Let me tell you. If I'm going to fight Charles Oliveira on pay-per-view, I'm going to ask for that base number to be real high because I love Charles Oliveira. That's not selling anything. These guys fought back in January. Dustin taking that fight in the 3rd, I want to say.
Second.
Am I correct? Second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the second wasn't going so well for Dustin either. He really turned this fight around quick.
No, it went pretty well for him, Bob. That's when he started the low kicks. And it
the first minute or so of it, I thought he was cracking him. But anyway, they fought previously back at UFC 178, I believe, where Conor dusted him in about 90 seconds in that one. Mm-hmm. We're doing it again. The betting odds for this one, Stefan?
Still pretty close. Dustin is the slight favorite at -20 or 120, and Conor is anywhere from even money to -102. So, yeah, it's going to be a close line. Still, ultimately, a kind of a coin flip.
Yeah, and I believe this whole card has got a lot of those. A lot of close fights, it seems like.
With the exception of our most recently updated fight, there is a big mismatch on that one.
Yes, the Sean O'Malley fight, of course. Mike, where are we in the It's MMAzing standings right now for our picks? We've crossed the halfway point of the year. How is your pursuit of glory? You're muted. You're still muted.
We are 6 months in, 6 months more to go. It's still pretty much anyone's game. Even Stefan with a few good weeks could get back in there. He's bringing up the rear at 32-29. Mark
Winning.
is in third at 36-25, and then it's very bunched up at the top between me and Bobby. I'm in second at 39-22, and Bob is in the lead at 40-21.
Shout out to Cyril Gahn, proving he's a future champion right there. Getting that 5-round decision. All right, Mike, why don't you just lead it off here? We got a trilogy fight. We got a close betting line. We saw this fight 6 months ago. I'm pretty sure we all picked Conor then.
Yeah, we saw that fight 6 months ago. The first fight was about 7 years ago. And all
Jesus,
we had
was
to,
it? Was that long
it was
ago?
It was about 2014.
Holy fuck. I don't know why in my head it was 2017. Jesus. Okay.
I believe the first fight, I think it may have been the first fight on Fox Sports 1. Maybe? I think in Boston?
No, that was when he tore his ACL.
Oh,
That was when he fought.
Okay.
I think you're right. That was closer to 2014. That sounds right. But go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, with that fight, all we had to go on was Conor, obliterating him very, very quickly. Obviously, we knew Dustin had made leaps and bounds since then, but we're all whores to previous decisions, so we went with Conor in the first one. This time around, there's only about 6 months in between, and we saw the evolution in Dustin's game and how it came to fruition and how it bore fruit in that second fight. And I don't think this is going to be a repeat of when Conor fought Nate for the second time in that rematch, where I love Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is my guy, but Nate Diaz doesn't have the repertoire and the skill set, the variety of the skill set that I think Dustin Poirier has. This is going to be a lot harder for Conor to game plan for and actually come out with the victory the third time around.
I'll go. I don't think anything you said was wrong, but I actually think him fighting more often, like it being a faster turnaround, is probably better for Conor. I always felt he's had his most success in MMA, like when he's really active. And that last fight in January, that first round was going really bad for Dustin. He was getting hit a lot. I don't like how whenever Conor loses to a certain thing, he acts like the discovery of that technique just occurred in his fight. Like he didn't know, like somehow we didn't know about calf kicks. He wasn't prepared for them. Look, I don't know if Conor McGregor's still an elite lightweight, but I still think he wins. I still think he wins this fight. I thought he was on his way to winning the last one, but Dustin really made an adjustment there. I think when there's a rematch, it's on the guy who lost the last one to make adjustments. So I think Conor will make the adjustments. I think he has a good coach. And assuming Conor's been minding his P's and Q's for these last 6 months, coming off a loss, he always seems pretty motivated. So I'm going to go with Conor here. Mark?
Yeah, those are valid points. I think it's really easy if you haven't rewatched the fight recently to forget that, Conor did do really good in that first round, and he wasn't in great positions. He got taken down. They got in the clinch. Conor looked pretty strong in the clinch. But Dustin had his moments in the first two, but it definitely was Conor's first round. And then the second round is where the low kicks came into more play. And obviously, Dustin was able to land with his hands. It will be interesting to see how Conor makes those adjustments. And I think he will be able to make those. And I feel like this fight potentially can be a longer fight, which I think will help Dustin in the long run. I think his varied attack will help him mix things up, keep Conor guessing a little bit more. And I do think Conor tends to wilt a little bit, and it has been a long time since he's had had like a 5-round war, and we've seen Dustin in there in those fights and getting wins that way and able to squeak out rounds. So I think it's going to be a really close fight. I do think it's going to go to decision. I think Dustin's going to get it, but I think it'll be competitive and fun.
Man, a 5-rounder would be badass. These guys match up in an exciting way. Stefan, we're going to get a split, or are we going 3-1 here? What do you think?
I have zero expectation of a 5-rounder. None whatsoever. This is a short. I have it finishing inside of before the championship round, so inside of 3. Conor's not really wired for the long. He has gone, but he's a bit of a his fighting style lends itself to be explosive early things. And yeah, it's all good points. I think the line is fair because just a centimeter more well targeted, and one of those punches in the first round probably knocks out Dustin. Like, they were really big shots. And yeah, I think for a lot of the things Conor gets knocked on, he adjusts well, right? He's still a student of the game. Having watched the Countdown show, I got a good sense. I think he's taking it very seriously. He's very aware of what happened. I think going into that fight, he fell in love with his boxing a little bit, right? He's a little bit more heavy stance, right? He's a little more sitting on those punches, which kind of lended himself to getting kicked as much as he did. It's not will he make the adjustments? Is he capable? Like you said, that first fight, Conor McGregor's been in our lives a lot longer than we realize now, so there is a bit of mileage on him. Is he at his athletic peak? Like you said, Bob, you asked, can he still be elite? Very much could be, but it's going to end up being 3-1 just because I kind of just bounce with the tides here. Dustin, his ascent has been higher. His game lends itself to being a longer, well-rounded game. He can play the long game of working the body, working the kicks a little bit more. Conor, for as amazing as he is, for as flashy as his highlights can be and why we love him, a little bit of a headhunter, and one thing we saw is, so do you think it took him seriously
the first time? This in January, do you think he took him as seriously as he should have? Honestly, I don't think he knows how good Dustin is, but do you think he thought, I beat this motherfucker in 90 seconds last time? Do you think that was a factor?
I don't think he in terms of preparation, I don't think he underestimated this isn't a credible opponent. I think at that time we were seeing Dustin on the rise. Dustin, did he beat Gaethje at that point when they fought?
Yeah, Dustin. Yeah, he had.
So yeah, at that point, Dustin is sitting at the top. I think he just has that mental belief of, well, I beat this guy before, so I can beat him again. But not in the sense that it was underprepared. I think
he thought he read this book already. He thought he knew everything.
Sure.
There was no surprises.
Yeah, I think that's one of the unfair knocks on Conor in general. Is kind of what my point is. For all his antics, I don't think he ever doesn't take training seriously. I think he puts in his work. Kind of in between the fights and on the mats and all that. There's just certain things his physical assets lead him to being good at, and some things that he's just not as in that first round, he gets up from the takedown from Dustin well, right? He's supposed to be the guy who is, cakewalk on the ground. Anybody could take this guy down. He's got no submission defense. He reverses the clinch, and then he starts giving Dustin those shoulder shots that he ended up basically beating Cerrone with. So you can see there's evolution in Conor's game, but people just don't like to give him credit because he's such a little stinker, But so it's as I said, is I just kind of think in terms of the arc of their career, Dustin might just be a little bit higher. But this is one where there's no surprise if Conor just straight knocks him out. When Conor wins, it's gonna look impressive, right? Conor doesn't eke out wins. He either wins in a blaze of glory or he goes down in a blaze of glory. So that's kind of one of the really appealing things about watching his fights is people mostly get finished, right? Like I'm saying, I'm not expecting.
I think Nate's the only one in recent times that it went the second Nate fight went 5 rounds, but that was a fucking war.
Yeah.
They beat the shit out of each
he had
other.
that early decision over Holloway, and that's the fight where he tore his ACL supposedly in the fight. So no shame that he couldn't get to a finish.
Yeah, people are harsh on him, but he also, he is a loud-spoken person. You could kind of come with the territory. But Mike, we're talking about man gets taken down by Chad Mendez and Khabib Nurmagomedov, and where everybody's just can't stop a takedown. It's well, fuck, man. He's not getting taken down by bums, right?
Yeah, I agree. With when it comes to Conor McGregor, a lot of times, we're hyper focused on every little thing that happens in each fight. But that's the fight game for you.
How many more do we get out of him? He doesn't need to.
Depends.
We learned he doesn't need to do this on any level. He was the highest paid athlete last year in the world.
Yeah. I think it all depends.
This is not the last one though, right? You think? Either way,
he's gonna fight Nate before he hangs it up.
Mhm.
But I think the number of fights that he has left in him is fully dependent on if he wins this next fight, because he's also a man that, you know, I think has a pretty good finger on the pulse when it comes to his popularity. And I mean, he knows if he loses this fight, I mean, he's going to lose a lot of the common fan and, you know, the fans that aren't us, that, you know, they don't give a shit about a guy who's lost 2 or 3 in a row.
do you think it matters if he wins or loses? Honestly,
He's not
do
Nate Diaz.
you think it matters if he wins or loses?
Yes.
Honestly, to the common fan, really?
Yes. Because he's not making all of the brash comments he used to do before that really drew people in. And he doesn't have, I think, the cult personality, you know, around him that the Diaz brothers do. That, sure enough, the Diaz brothers, or I guess Nate Diaz in particular, since he's the one that's fought in the last 5 years, we don't give a shit if he wins or loses. But with Conor, I think so much of his mystique when he was coming up was he was brash, but he backed it up. And yeah, if you're not backing it up, I think people that aren't like us aren't going to give a shit to watch his fights.
I don't know. You might be right, Marcus. Do you agree?
Sorry. Not entirely. I understand what Mike's saying, and I think a big part of this game is like you do have to win. You know, to stay relevant in this game, you do have to get W's. And just showing a good fight is good, and I think you will maintain some fans if he has a strong performance, and like I think it will be, you know, maybe a 5-round, you know, a tactical fight. I still think even in coming out on the losing end, he'll still maintain a certain amount of fans, because I think he has that charisma. He's that popular that I don't think another loss will hurt him, you know, significantly. But the numbers will tell, right? I think this pay-per-view numbers will tell. Like, how will this pay-per-view stack up with the other one? You know, does it decrease a little bit because Conor, you know, potentially you can draw some correlation. He lost that last fight. Maybe some of the common fan did lose interest in Conor then, and this fight doesn't do as well. If this fight does just as well, it's like, well, maybe he didn't really lose that much, but then he loses 2 in a row. You know, the numbers are really going to be the
we also
outlier.
have to apologize, Marcus. We have the variable now of like in January we were all definitely at home, and now nobody's at home. Man, I would love some real numbers. Can this fucker's public?
We're not really going to get that. But
this motherfucker's public now. I'm a UFC owner. Okay, I got 10 shares of this bitch. Can I figure out? I need to see the books. How can I make decisions about the future here if I don't see the books? Come on, let me in the quarterly report. Give me stuff. Stefan, go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say is like while we talk about like what happens in terms of the casual fan, we always, you know, everyone thinks I'm joking when I bring it up, but this is the new reality we live in. Regardless of what happens in this UFC run, we can always drum up that interest in a heartbeat, and we can get that retirement walking away money by simply asking the question is, what can Conor do against a Paul brother? You know, no matter what happens against Dustin, no matter what happens against Nate, Conor always has, there's a multi-million-dollar thing in the back pocket. They should
do Conor fighting both of them, but they got to alternate rounds. I would
why not?
I would watch the shit out of that.
By that time, Bobby, we might be there to tag team boxing. Okay,
I would watch the shit out of that. All right. Gilbert Burns versus Wonderboy Thompson, aka how Leon Edwards gets fucked yet again. That's what the subtitle of this fight is. Wonderboy Thompson, a man who I learned has a very entertaining YouTube channel. Quite frankly, learned about that in the last week. I dig it. Coming off of 2 straight victories over Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal, got himself a fight of the night and a performance of the night. Man likes to fight once a year these days, it seems like. Gilbert Burns, I believe, last fight is when he got baptized by the champion, Kamaru Usman. Got himself knocked out in that 3rd round. Betting line for this one, Stefan?
I was actually a little surprised, not that it's steep, but Stephen Thompson is the favorite at minus 172, which is a little odd number, to Gilbert Burns' plus 140.
Well, let's say this now. Our go-to bet, let's just peel back the curtain. Our go-to website for this is Best Fight Odds, and Best Fight Odds has promoted FanDuel to the #1 slot in the betting odds, which used to be 5 Dimes, which I don't know what they did stuff on, but they got kicked out of the top 5 entirely.
5 Dimes is apparently laundering some money, so we can't show what their lines are anymore.
Yeah, exactly. We like to go with an American betting line now. I got Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy Thompson's 38 years old, I think, now. And I'm going to say this is it. He's never going to sniff a title shot again if he loses this fight. Which, I mean, he had 2 title fights, had quite a run, quite frankly, in the UFC. Been here since 2012, I'm sorry. Came in as a 5-0 fighter, is currently 16-0. Not a bad run, quite frankly. Losses being to people like Till, Pettis, and Woodley. But I think this is the last push of the Wonder Boy. I think he's going to get it done here. On the feet, he manages distance better than almost any welterweight in the UFC. This man is probably, he got so close to being a champion without being one. Those fights with Woodley were razor thin. And I think this is his last push, and I think he's going to get it done here. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a really tough one. And it's kind of surprising Thompson. I mean, in my eyes, kind of surprising Thompson is the favorite. I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns. Mostly just because I think, looking back at Thompson, like, the run hasn't been as smooth. I mean, the Neal fight and
he's getting hit a lot.
I not just that, just like it wasn't that long ago he lost to Till and Pettis, and the Woodley outings weren't super favorable. Obviously, he lost one. There was a draw. And Burns looked really great up until his run with Usman, and that fight was really close too. Burns had some moments early on where it looked like he was going to be able to capture it, and Usman was able to snatch it back from him. So I'm going to go with Burns. I think it's a really close fight. I think it's going to be highly contested. I think it'll be technical. I think it depends if Burns could get Wonderboy to the ground and utilize any of that stuff. If it's just going to be on the feet, too. Yeah, it's going to be difficult because Thompson, has a lot of, he's going to give him a lot of difficulty, measuring that distance, having him get into clinches easily, and most of it's going to be octagon control. He's going to be able to take center and push him up against the cage and not let him escape out the sides. If he can do that, I think he can win. But that is a tough task. So I think it's going to be a really close fight. But I got Burns.
Mike, what do you got here?
I co-sign with everything that you guys have said so far. Giving you guys fair warning now that for the next 2 fight picks, I will be picking out of emotion and want. So in this case, I will be picking Stephen Thompson because I do want to see him fight for a title again. There aren't many genuinely good guys, I think, out in the world. And Stephen Thompson seems like one of those guys.
He's the nicest motherfucker in the UFC. The Ariel got him a belt made, I think. Is what happened. He's got an NMF belt.
If he could be the third cleaver, but a cleaver that just like does high kicks and does like sweet karate shit, I would totally understand that and totally believe that. For you guys are wondering, cleavers is from Leave It to Beaver. So I'm going with Stephen Thompson out of pure want and desire.
Mike, picking a man who knocked out a friend of ours multiple times. Stefan, who do you got?
Look, man, you don't want to you just don't want to peel the onion too far back with people in MMA, right? Like, I'm just going to take it at face value that you say he's a nice guy. Mike, look at the time. That whole cast in that white America age, most of them were probably really racist. So let's not peel things too back. He's from South Carolina. He's good friends with Chris Weidman. I don't want to peel back the social.
He's related to Chris Weidman. Different.
So what you're saying is that the Beaver probably was using the N-word with the hard R?
Maybe Mister. I don't know about the little child one, but maybe he grew up. I didn't follow them closely, Mike.
It's the Chappelle Show skit when the guy is delivering the milk to the family. You know what I'm talking about? That's what we're talking about here. Steph, go ahead.
But this fight is tough. I'm going with Boo Earns, but I'm pretty scared of that pick. I think even though he has a muscular build, I think Boo Earns might actually naturally be a lightweight.
He's not a tall man.
He came up from lightweight, and he made his run at welterweight when he went up in weight. He was kind of like, I remember my initial comparison is, maybe he's pulling a Robert Whittaker, right? Maybe not cutting as much weight is helping his speed and power ratio just work a little bit better. But then he ran against the Kamaru, and I'm like, you're decisively smaller. And one thing Wonderboy has is maybe not big muscle. He's long. He's long and tall and rangy, and he's very technical. And what feasted on Boo Earns was that damn jab, So I'm very nervous about the technical and size difference maybe hurting Burns here. I'd be totally happy with Wonderboy winning. This is one of those kind of patting my self-interest things where if Wonderboy gets a title shot against Usman, I'll be happy to see it. But if Gilbert Burns wins, that's the best avenue. You said it, Bob. He wasn't my guy before, but he is now, for Leon Edwards to not get screwed because Gilbert was so decisively finished by Kamaru. There's more leg to stand on that Leon should not get jumped in that event, you know?
I fundamentally believe, by the way, Leon's getting fucked either way. That's just me, because I think the world's not fair.
It's entirely possible, right? And another thing that scares me, might be a feeling. I don't have any facts or history to reference this. I feel like there is a long lineage of Brazilian title contenders who, after they lost their title map, they just fell off the edge of the earth. It is a flat world, and they found the corner and just fell off. Where, like, you know, Thiago Alves is the first one that comes to mind, where whatever monster we thought they were when they earned their title shot, they never approximated that level of success again. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like there have been a number of Brazilian challengers in the past, right? Look at also another Thiago Santos, right? He gave John Jones hell with no ligaments in his knees, and then he got starched in his next fight too. Like, so I don't know.
Sure you want to take Burns? You're sure you're making a good case the other way?
I'm making a lot of cases against Burns in this, but
this is one of those ones. This is one of those ones at the end where Mike goes, "Wait, which one are you picking?" That's one of these.
It is. I'm making really great arguments. In fact, Mark is going to jump ship at the end of this.
You did pick Burns, right? Like
he did.
Like, I put you down as Burns, but like I've heard you talk so much the other side. I'm like, I had to confirm that.
I'm making it a coin flip because ultimately, Mike, like you said, it's a heart thing. I want Leon to get what's his, and Burns winning is the better avenue to that outcome. But like Bob said, my man's just going to get screwed either way.
I mean, I think they're going to make a fight Jorge Masvidal, personally. I think that's what's happening. I think they make him. We have to go back to
Jorge and that man living in my Trump or YouTube ads for the last year. Like, get Jorge out of here. I'm off that guy.
They got to do that 2-piece in a soda fight, right? They got to make money off of that. That's still coming. All right, so 2-2 in that one. You know, Wonderboy had to be on this card to offset the character of the other people on this card, quite frankly. And Greg Hardy. Tai Tuivasa. A woman beater versus a man who's drinking beer out of a shoe that someone spit in. Not even his shoe.
Those aren't even in the same
No, I'm just saying that. I'm just describing the two gentlemen. Not saying it's the same thing.
Just their hobbies, Mike. Just
their hobbies. Their hobbies. You know? Greg Hardy's coming off of... I don't even know, man.
He lost.
He lost to Martian Tarbora.
Yeah, coming after 2 straight wins over Jorgen De Castro and Maurice Green. Tai Tuivasa, who I maintain, said he was cut. And he was not.
Not?
No. He's fought twice during the pandemic. Once in Abu Dhabi, knocked out Stefan Struve in one round, and then knocked out a guy named Harry Hunsucker in a minute. Betting odds.
The man with the shoe is the favorite in this one at -144. What is up, FanDuel? Where are you getting all these random non-round numbers in your betting lines? You know what? As of next week, we're not using FanDuel anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna find 5 times again.
For consistency's sake, we are now because again, Greg Hardy at +118. I got to have change. They ran out of 20s at the FanDuel casino. They can't pay out in solid numbers. Like, anyways, Greg Hardy, slight underdog.
I'm gonna pay this piece of shit a compliment here first. Greg Hardy, when it comes to just standing up, looks fast, looks explosive, looks like he might be something. Then Greg Hardy gets taken down, and that entire house of cards crumbles. My man has no plan for that.
It's also not that surprising that he looks fast when he's on his feet. He used to be an all-pro defensive end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This man's an athletic beast. He's might be the best athlete in that weight class. He probably is, based on his former profession. But when he's on the ground, he looks like it's UFC 1. He just seems that he's accepting the inevitability of getting ground and pounded or tapped out whenever he's on the ground. And Marcus, this fight, they did not put him against somebody who's going to take him down probably. They put him against Tai Tuivasa, who is stubborn enough to stand with him. That being said, I'm still taking Tai Tuivasa because the other outcome makes me sad. I got Tai Tuivasa. What do you got, Mark?
Yeah, I have Tai as well. And I agree. This is a good stylistic matchup for Greg Hardy. Why I'm still sticking with Tai as well is that I don't think Greg Hardy has really shown to me like the high technical aptitude to really set up traps and strikes and to present himself as a high level striker. I think he is the things you mentioned before. He's extremely athletic. He knows how to throw. And he definitely can, but I just don't see that high level of striking that we've seen from other guys that also get it done quickly, like Francis, right? When you look at someone like Francis, he has all those other same athleticism, but he also knows how to set up traps. He knows how to capitalize on mistakes. I don't really see that level in Greg Hardy, so I am giving Tai the benefit of the doubt that he's going to be able to find opportunities where Greg's not going to be strong in the fight, potentially in the clinch. If he could take him down, that would be great. I mean, that's obviously the kryptonite. I think that's the easiest way for you to just really deplete this dude's stamina and get him fighting kind of just running, at second gear just to complete the fight and not get finished. But yeah, Tai's not really that guy. Tai likes to go in there and throw heavy hands from the outset and try to get it done in the first round. That's what he's been successful at his entire career. So, I could very much see them clashing. And in that type of fight, it is kind of a coin toss. Either one of these guys can land a big strike and finish it there. But I'm going to give Tai the benefit of the doubt and think he's going to approach this fight a little bit more intelligently and understand that, like, okay, let's just try to push this guy into the second and third round and see what he has there. And maybe that's where he tries to kick it into high gear and finish the fight there. But yeah, it potentially it could be a really fun fight. I think this is, given the skill level that Greg Hardy has shown, this is an appropriate type of challenge I want to see him in. Because when they put him up against Alex Volkov, I was like, okay, well, this is a joke.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's like we already know the outcome here. They've been matching him up with, I think, in his last couple of fights, better fighters that are in his realm but are still challenging him. He couldn't beat Tybura, but Tai is a challenge that he potentially could overcome. But I'm going with Tai. But I think it's close.
We're 12 fights into this dude's UFC career. Or no, not 12. 11 fights into his UFC career. 2 of them being in the Contender Series, but this is it's quite a few.
He's put in rounds, as much as he could have been a flash in the pan and just,
he's still there, surprisingly.
He seems to have been honest when he said he was really going to put his his
no
heart and
NFL
soul
team
into this
is calling.
and go for it. No, and
That's
that too. The options
No
may be
NFL
dwindling, so this is
no
an
NFL team
athletic
is
endeavor he could make some decent cash on. But
you really thought it'd be thought it would be the Raiders, man. Then
it's not an easy sport, just like the NFL. This is a difficult sport, and if he was in it just to get rich quick, I don't really think that's materialized. I don't know.
Have we seen a contract? Have we seen a payout for this guy yet? We haven't, have we? I mean, anyway. So 2 picks for Tuivasa so far. Stefan, what do you got?
I think we've seen that he's making 6 figures. He's not making a typical introductory. He's kind of getting good money in this. And I can't remember off the top, but I feel like I have seen that in the past. And, the interesting thing you point out about his volume of fights, Greg Hardy is a weird case because this is usually one of the things UFC boasts about is they don't bring along guys slowly. But you look at the list of all those fights that Greg Hardy, he fights a lot of nobodies or guys who have since been cut. Like, they've actually given him the development career track in the UFC, which truly is something that almost never happens, particularly in the last several years of the UFC. That said, with Mike having tipped off his pick here, I guess I'm going to be the one who's a little dirty. I'm going to take Greg Hardy.
What do you mean I tipped off my pick?
You said you're going to pick on emotion here.
Are you emotionally going to pick? You're emotionally
pick Greg Hardy?
Yeah,
he loves him what he stands for.
Maybe I'm very big on hygiene. You ever thought of that?
No. We are coming out of COVID. Everyone's coming.
We were thinking the bigger issues, but Mike's looking at the hygiene of a man.
So when Bobby compared the 2 things, Mike did weigh it in his head.
Yeah, he's like, what do you mean?
There's spit in the shoe? It was about even, but now it's tipped the scale. But Tai's not that guy. Mark, I agree with everything you said. But when you're comparing him to Francis, I'm like, well, Francis is using these technical skills to fight the high end of the division.
Yeah.
Tai Tuivasa is not that.
He's no
You know,
Francis.
Tai
I was
Tuivasa
saying
is
Greg Hardy's no Francis, but they're both no Francis. That's clear.
Yes. So like I do believe Ty's kind of has like kind of stubborn Samoan guy like mentality of like, I can knock this guy out. He can't knock me out. I'm tough. We're just gonna fight.
Ty is Mark Hunt without the technical ability. Okay, Ty is just a big bar brawler. Okay, he looks like the Mark Hunt look with the Tank Abbott abilities. That's where we're at with Tai Tuivasa. Okay,
more or less that is a apt description. I mean, it's a credible name. I'm thankful for Marcin Tybura, but Tai Tuivasa is not the champion I would have chosen in the crusade of flaming Greg Hardy's career out.
Honestly, right now at this point, I'm like, we're talking that out loud. I'm like, I think Greg Hardy's going to find a way. I mean, Greg Hardy's going to find a way here. Mike, before you pick, I just want to point out that the last time Greg Hardy fought, it was also on a Wonderboy Thompson card, because I feel the UFC is intentionally doing this. They got to balance out the woman beater with someone with some level of integrity. So Wonderboy Thompson, man, please, no skeletons, dude. None. We need
it's like Rick needing Morty for his Morty ways to balance out his genius with some stupidity. But in this case, it's good Christian upbringing with whatever Greg Hardy's bringing. But yeah, Steph was right. I am going with Greg Hardy on this one on emotional reasons because, well, Greg Hardy's a knucklehead. But on a technical level, I mean, Tai Tuivasa has some really good leg kicks, and Greg Hardy has shown an ability to not check leg kicks. So one thing I thought of when I saw that this fight got booked was, yeah, I can totally see that by the mid-second round, Greg Hardy can barely walk, can barely stand on his leg. And I think that's how Tuivasa is going to win this fight.
All right.
Take away his mobility and then knock his ass out, hopefully.
Irene Aldana, Yana Kunitskaya. Irene Aldana in her last fight got beat by Holly Holm over 5 rounds back in Abu Dhabi. The scorecards for that one, clean sweep for Holly Holm, 5 rounds to nothing. Yana Kunitskaya coming off of 2 straight wins over Julia Storolenko and Ketlin Vieira. And also about 5 minutes ago, Stefan trashed her husband, talking about him falling off a cliff after losing to John Jones. So that's where Yana Kunitskaya is at. Betting odds for this one.
She's married to Thiago Santos?
I hope I didn't make that up.
That is
They're
correct.
engaged. They are engaged.
Engaged. Fair
Hopefully
enough.
Hopefully they can book a wedding, not in Brazil, somewhere else. But
Another near coin flip fight. Yana is the slight underdog at even money, and Irene Aldana. Here it is again, Bob. All the other lines: -120, -125. What does FanDuel say? -122. We're not even going to average the other ones. We're just going to choose a number in between.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Are you picking your girl?
I'm picking Irene. I don't feel great about it, to be honest. She was having a little bit of a moment. She got that big TKO. She fought Holly Holm. And then Holly Holm is always a very tough challenge, and Holly Holm's specific style makes her a tough challenge. But when I watched that fight, what I saw her corner and her camp reared, my big criticisms reared their head again. They can't make adjustments in fight. Whatever their game plan is their game plan. And if something's not going their way, there is no technical advice. There is no here's plan B. Because Irene spent 5 rounds just chasing. Never changed the angle she pursued. She never added additional kicks. She never threw in some takedowns to mix up the looks. She just chased and whiffed at air for 5 straight rounds. It was really frustrating and disappointing to see as someone who's a fan of her. Yana, she doesn't lose decisions. When she loses, she gets finished. And unfortunately, Irene has a history of decisions. That TKO or that KO she got was kind of like her first one in the UFC, right? So can she recreate that? So I'm taking her because, I root for that camp, Lobo MMA, because Alexa Grasso is another one of my favorite in the women's divisions. But it's kind of like the same as the Gilbert Burns Wonder Thompson fight. If I'm being completely objective, I see a lot of reasons to pick against her. But I'm not being objective.
Mike, what do you got?
Yep. I think I'll follow Steph on Kunis on Aldana. Sorry.
Marcus.
Yeah, I'm going the other way. I'm going with Yana. Just and for a lot of reasons Stefan mentioned. You know, he always makes a good case for the other side of the coin. I think she's a very technical fighter. I think she knows how to win rounds and get decisions. And just like you said, you know, she tends to, when she loses, get finished. And, you know, I think Irene is completely capable of that. We have seen her finish people in the UFC, and especially in when her run in Invicta, she was, you know, getting a lot of stoppages there. I just think Yana's a little too tough to fall for that. And will be able to control the fight, you know, have better positioning in the clinch, potentially take it down, control the fight on top. Do those things that the judges like to in a close round to just make it an easy decision for them. She got a takedown in this round, she wins the round. She controlled most of the round in the clinch and scored some knees or something, she gets the round. I think that's how this fight's going to play out. It might not be the most exciting of the main card, but I see that. I think if it is going to be exciting, I think it's because Aldana will score some big punches and potentially, you know, do a lot of damage and potentially finish her, which would be interesting. And I'd root for that outcome, but I think Yana's going to win.
I'm gonna go with Yana also, who I just learned her nickname is Foxy, which I feel has never been said by Bruce Buffer ever. I got Yana also. I think it's gonna be close. But yeah, unless I think Irene might need to fight the way she used to fight. Like, let's make this a brawl. You know what I mean? I think that would actually benefit her in this type of fight. But I got Yana with that close ass betting line. Sean O'Malley was gonna fight Louis Smolka, and I was looking forward to that, man. I thought that was going to be a fun matchup of interesting styles. Something happened to Luis, got hurt. About 15 different UFC bantamweights asked to fight Sean O'Malley, and they went with the one that nobody knew, which not you know, doesn't mean the guy can't win, but it sounds like we didn't want to, you know, well, let's not give Sean O'Malley a puzzle to figure out on 10 days' notice.
He's a debuting UFC fighter and the real kiss of death. He has no Wikipedia page. Had to go to Sherdog to see what this kid's record was.
Chris Moutinho, fighting out of Milford, Massachusetts, Rivera Athletic Center, which I'm starting to think he might train under Jorge Rivera, because I know Jorge's out of Massachusetts. Maybe. Because, you know, that's why I'm basing it off of.
Yeah.
9-4 record. Look, is anybody picking against Sean O'Malley here?
That's going to be no, Bobby.
Okay.
If anything, Bob, I'm surprised the line wasn't bigger. Just for academic sake, Sean O'Malley is minus 950 to Moutinho's plus 590. But honestly, with all the variables in hand, it could have been bigger.
And he is, in fact, that is Jorge Rivera's gym. Just check. Let's just do this instead.
I'd put like $10 on the other guy, you know, if I lived in Vegas. Why not?
You can just go to New Jersey and make it that real quick, Mike.
Nah, son. Yeah, but then I got to pay like $15 to get back in. That's not worth it.
That's a lot of bridge toll and gas, Bobby, to make a $10 bet.
I'll just say this real quickly. There's a couple interesting fights on the prelims I just want to point out here. I think Michelle Pereira and Nico Price could be very interesting. Especially this newer version of Michelle Pereira. And Nico Price is kind of just out there, just a violent motherfucker.
Michelle Pereira, was that the dude doing the stupid flips and shit?
Yeah, he kind of got it together, though. His last couple fights. I think that could be really good. Ryan Hall fighting anybody at this point is rare. But Stefan, he's like a minus 270 underdog to this guy he's fighting. Which I feel the second Ryan Hall loses a fight, the UFC is going to cut him. He just isn't worth their trouble for them.
I don't pay attention that closely to him. I know he gets some slick subs from time to time, but I don't got my finger on the Hall pulse.
Max Griffin, Carlos.
Ryan Hall is 8-1. Why are they dying to get rid of him?
He doesn't throw punches, really.
He's a slick sub guy.
He's a real guy. He's very much a jits guy. I don't know. He doesn't fight often. It feels like people won't accept fights with him. It's kind of the rub out there. So I don't know. I don't think he's long for the UFC. Personally, just me guessing. I like this Carlos Condit Max Griffin fight. Carlos Condit, if he can pull this off, Marcus, that's 3 in a row for Carlos Condit.
Quite a turnaround. He was
What a
looking
turnaround.
rough a while ago.
And 3 people who we recognize if he does. He beat Matt Brown, he beat Court McGee, and if he beats Max Griffin, that's another one right there.
He
After
may
losing,
have one last title run in him.
okay, let's not get wild here. But he lost 5 straight before that. Carlos Condit out there still fighting. So somebody's got to bring money into the Jackson Wink camp because John Jones isn't fighting at all right now. And then Jennifer Maia, Jessica I on this card. There's a lot of fights on this card in general. 13 fights. But a lot of interesting matchups, so we'll see where that goes. All right, let's do stuff we like. We're going to end with the Fast and the Furious talk for the few of you who want to not be spoiled or don't want to hear it on any level. So let's go first to Stefan.
Short week. I might as well just keep it simple. I got me a PS5. Shout outs to Matt Swider. I think he might be an editor for Tech Radar, which I don't know. Is that a magazine still? Is it just a website nowadays? I don't know how well print media is doing these days. But he puts out alerts. Shout out to him. I follow him. It always kind of amuses me that when people don't get their PS5s or Xboxes or GPUs, and they get really mad at the dude, and they'll be like, man, fuck this guy who just does this service for free, and you can either take it or leave it. Like it's his fault that all these things are selling out in seconds, and Walmart has the jankiest checkout system you ever saw. I will say a pro tip from there was I ended up scoring mine from Best Buy. And one of the benefits to if you can catch their restocks is they have PayPal checkout. And when you do PayPal checkout, you get redirected off of the Best Buy site traffic. And that's usually what fells Walmart's, your Amazon's, is all the on-site traffic causes all these server chaos. And then nothing gets added to your cart. You have to press the button 30 times. So, if you can track the Best Buy restocks in Pacific, I think that's a better shot than others. But hopefully, this shit just becomes available normally. I had to drive 2 hours to get it to Mountain View because, of course, they go to a specific store location and you can't just choose whichever one you want. But, it was the weekend on a holiday, so it wasn't too bad. I got to load some stuff up. A wag of the finger to NBA 2K because they promised me a free PS5 upgrade when I got NBA 2K. But here's the rub. It's just loading the PS4 version on. They have a up-res PS5 next-gen version, but you gotta pay $19.95 to unlock that bullshit.
Yep.
So go to hell, 2K Games, because even cruel, ruthless entity EA gave me a true free upgrade to FIFA. I have that PS5 FIFA experience. I got that PS5 Miles Morales experience, but fucking 2K wants an extra $20 on their bullshit basketball game to get that little graphical upgrade patch. And then I haven't started it yet, but I did pick up the Final Fantasy VII Remake expansion, Intergrade, Intermission. All the naming is starting to get a little convoluted now. We're talking about Yuffie the Ninja Girl, or Yuffie the Ninja Girl, so I'll probably start digging into that as the week comes.
Right on. Steph, real quickly, was this last episode of Loki your favorite one so far? Because it was mine.
It was my favorite thus far.
Yeah, because the third one was my least favorite thus far. So it was a nice turnaround for me, personally. Did not dig the third one that much.
I was fine with it. I don't get
I didn't think it was bad. I didn't really think it was bad. I was just the third one. I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're just ranking it with the fourth episode. But I did hear a lot of kind of negative buzz on the third episode. I really didn't get why. Like, my nephew came and he loved it because he said it reminds him of Doctor Who. I don't even watch Doctor Who, but I got it. I'm like, yeah, I get Doctor Who vibes off of that.
Yeah.
All this show is the Tom Hiddleston chemistry experiment. Like, let's just pair Tom Hiddleston with other people and see how they banter together.
I'm going to be honest with you. The lack of Owen Wilson is why I didn't like the third episode. Not kidding.
Okay, so that's your favorite. That is my reason. Banter pairing. That's your favorite banter pairing. But yeah, it's like when people, I don't know. That's why I don't really understand, because I'm like, this show is a very simple in its premise to me. It's like, how is his tete-a-tete with various cast members? But I did. Fourth episode was my favorite. The first one where we got like kind of a mid post-credit stinger, and that was really exciting.
Right on. Marcus, what do you got this week, man?
Yeah, not a ton game-wise. I did get a local multiplayer game of Mario Golf going. None of the crazy running around chasing the ball, just pure stroke play. And it was actually quite fun. And I did learn something in one of the reviews I had read before. They said you had to unlock the courses through doing the career mode. So I was trying to do that. I kind of complained about that last week. And apparently, if you just play local multiplayer and do half a course, you'll earn the other courses. So I basically got all of them except the last one just by having local matches, which was really fun. Kind of the bigger thing that I watched instead of Fast 9 was another stupid action movie that was on Prime called The Tomorrow War. This is the one with Chris Pratt, and kind of a really stupid premise of, I mean, honestly, I think what kind of set my expectations was I saw one review that was very harsh on it, which made me think like, okay, like that was pretty rough. So my expectations were low. When you get into it, I mean, I think your expectation should be this is a dumb sci-fi action summer flick, you know, that's projecting a lot of sci-fi tropes that like are difficult to juggle, as in time travel and aliens and all these type of things. And it honestly doesn't always do a great job with those avenues, but I will say like just watching it in fun, making fun of it and joking along with it. And a lot of times we would ask a question like, oh, why doesn't this happen? And then like 3 minutes later, they would explain. So I do think that someone had ran through the script a couple times and be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Can you explain this? And there was some re-edits there. But overall, I thought for a dumb action flick, it was really fun. I think one of my favorite things, so basically the premise is like there's a war 30 years in the future and people are going back in time to recruit people of the current time to go and fight the Tomorrow War. But the thing that's really convoluted that is just like, just go with it because it visually is fun, is like, they say like, oh, well, like all the military got wiped out really fast. So now we're just going to take fucking everybody. It's just a world draft and they'll take grandmas and grandpas. So when they're like enlisting people, it's a bunch of everyday Joes that obviously would not cut military like standards of what a soldier with firearms going into a live combat zone would need to have. But Mike, you have questions, of course. You do as you watch this film as well.
So just very quick. So they're taking people from the past to fight a war in the future?
Yeah.
Because it's called the Tomorrow War.
Yeah. So a little, I mean, look, I'll diverge some of the, what kind of...
So just very quick question, and obviously if they did this, there wouldn't be any movie, but if they're able to draft, quote unquote, people from the past, if they have the technology to bring people from the past to the future, which time, I mean, literally taking people out of the space time from the past, putting them in the future. I don't know. I feel like that'll fuck some shit up. Just so
Mike, you are clearly subscribing to the wrong time travel rules. Yes, it is not a single time. We're talking about branch realities, however, not butterfly effect.
So let me explain, because this is, while you're watching the movie, these questions come up. This obvious time thing, and then that's a question that came up. Like, how are they choosing? So, but their explanation of that is that they look in their computers or whatever, and it's like, oh, Chris Pratt's character was going to die 7 years in the future. Like, he wasn't going to make it to the future time zone. There's no kids that are going to get expelled off if he dies. Like, so basically everyone that is getting drafted,
Bobby you are irrelevant.
Exactly.
You were drafted, yes. You're irrelevant to the future.
Both me and Bobby put a look on our face when you said that, like, that'll pass the sniff test.
I mean, that is what the movie does. Like, so when you're watching it, you'll have a question like, well, how does this make sense? And sometimes they don't get answered, but a lot of times they try to explain, and it's kind of like, okay, and it's like, look, if you want to put this thing to a magnifying glass, you're going to find holes. They're not hard to find. Bobby, questions, of course.
Mike, do you know what movie you and I are about to talk about next 5 minutes? You're looking for logic holes in this?
I was just thinking that this movie, where they're taking people from the past to fight a war in the future, probably still makes more sense than the movie we're about to talk about.
Exactly.
Bobby, you're like, oh shit, they did that in Fast 9. That's where they took it from.
Yo, that's Fast 10. That's the plots of Fast 10, son. Future, son.
You're muted, Bob.
Bobby, you're muted.
Let me tell you this, guys. We're going to talk about a few minutes. But if we're not doing time travel in the next movie for Fast 10, I don't know what we're doing.
You know, it is true. In 20 years in the future, we got a drag race to save planet Earth, but we just don't have the handlers who can handle the wheel like they did back in Dominic Toretto's days. So we got to bring him to win the future drag race.
I look forward to Mars drifting in Fast 12.
Just to wrap up Tomorrow War, like what I will say is like, yeah, when you're watching this movie, like and like any sci-fi movie, you have these questions of like, okay, how does this work or that work? And to the movie's credit, like I said, they will try to explain it. How far you take that explanation, how much you buy into it varies. Some of them is like, okay, some of it's like, this still doesn't really make sense or pass the sniff test, as you said, Mike. But overall, I thought the film was really fun. I had a good time with it. I mean, and what I really liked is just like this visual aspect that like they have a bunch of Joe Schmoes just like, I'm holding a machine. It's like grandmas and grandpas and shit. Like it doesn't make any sense, but it has this really weird visual of, especially when they're doing the time travel. When you go to the new time, you kind of drop like it's like, oh, you're gonna drop like 5 feet, but apparently they get fucked up and it like drops high. So like you're dropping in with all these average looking people. It looks like Fortnite. It looks like we get it, and that's how the movie opens. Is everyone's dropping in and they're flying down, and you have. I honestly expected someone to be in a banana costume because, like, why not? At this point, you have every other weirdo in here.
This is Prime, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if you
gotta justify that, man. You're paying for Prime. You gotta watch some shit.
And honestly, like in that regard too, like it's a good. I mean, as far as like production, money wise, like the effects and action scenes and like. They're high production. Like this is supposed to be like a summer blockbuster film, and it has that kind of character to it. I think look, if you want to poke holes in it, you're gonna do that. You're gonna find your holes and have a great time and say like this movie's so dumb and stupid. But like if you also just want to watch a movie and rag on it while you're watching it, I mean that's what we did. And then I kind of respected it to a certain degree. It was like we make some joke like, well that doesn't make any sense, and then literally like it happened like 8 times. Like 3 minutes later they'd be like, well we have to. You're going to shoot them here and there because of X, Y, or Z. They try to explain it. So you're kind of like, oh, well, you know what I did? I did ask that question. They tried to explain it. I'm not always going to buy the explanations or think it's good writing. Last thing I will say, I don't know if you guys have seen J.K. Simmons like recently. I don't know when he got on the Rick and Morty old man muscle build.
He's been like that for a while.
Okay, because this is the first time I've seen him in a while, and he is like yoked, ripped grandpa. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. The last thing I heard him in was Invincible. I didn't really see him.
He was in Palm Springs like that too, wasn't he? Wasn't he all yoked up in Palm Springs?
He was a hunter guy in Palm Springs.
Oh. Yeah, was he? Yeah. I don't really. I remember him in that. I still remember him being like.
He had jacked arms in that drummer movie, Whiplash. Yeah, Whiplash. He had jacked biceps.
When we were talking about it, my brother-in-law Sean mentioned Whiplash. I was like, I didn't see it, so this was a new look for me, and I was like, right on, man.
I'm glad you found it watchable because this movie was on my radar. It's just something to watch. But the one thing that was kind of making me nervous is I saw a over 2 hour runtime, and I'm like, oh, original IP, you better hold my attention if you're gonna be doing a long movie like that.
It definitely does kind of the last Lord of the Rings, where at one point you're like, this kind of seems like the movie could wrap up at this point, and then it kind of goes on for a little bit more, and you're like, okay. I mean, what they end up it answers more questions, so you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm getting more information, and it ties back into things that, I mean, look at this movie's not trying to, it's dealing with really complex things, but it's not trying to be super complex. They introduce something extremely early on in the movie, and immediately I was like, well, that's going to come into play at the end of the movie, and it absolutely does. It's just like the foreshadowing is not so hidden in the shadows. You can kind of see where things are going to lead to, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, if you're don't really know what to watch and like a fun kind of sci-fi action movie sounds interesting to you, you could do worse than this.
All right, Mike, you got anything before we just get into it?
Yes, one very quick thing. So I had off, I would assume like many of you at home for Monday for 4th of July. And I decided at about 11 a.m. today, while playing Spider-Man Miles Morales, like, fuck it, I want to go to the beach. So I got in my car and I drove to Coney Island, and it was fun, Nice. I sat at the actual beach. I set up my little bed sheet. It was super ghetto.
That is ghetto. It's usually a beach towel, but bed sheets.
I couldn't find a beach towel, and I really didn't want to look very hard. So I'm like, fuck it. Let me just take this beach towel.
I mean, my next guess would be bath towel. Usually in the towel realm, I wouldn't go to sheets immediately, but that's just me, Mike.
Yeah, so, I laid there for maybe about an hour. I went and I dipped my feet into the ocean, so I could say I was in the Atlantic Ocean.
Nice.
I don't like swimming in the ocean because the ocean has tried to kill me about 3 times. So the most I went was knee deep. Then I left. And then I went into the Coney Island amusement park, and
Nice.
I went on the new roller coaster that just opened up this season. I think it's the first new ride at Coney Island in God knows how long. And considering what we've been through the last year and a half, the ride is aptly named Phoenix. It's decent. If it was a new ride at Six Flags Great Adventure or at Disney World or an actual theme park, I would be like, this is bullshit. You guys need to close. But considering it's Coney Island, the fact that the ride lasted all of like 15 seconds and there was like one loop and one just like mediocre drop, it's like, this is great. Sure. I enjoyed it.
Mike, my only oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Coney Island, nice little day trip.
I was gonna say the only thing I lament about your Coney Island trip is, Mike, had you done it a day sooner, you could have met the pride of San Jose, Jaws, Joey Chestnut, just the countless repeat champion of the hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, they still do that.
Yeah, 12-time
our
champion.
guy, he retired Kobayashi, which I lament, but hey, San Jose, California. He recommended on what was that Food Channel show where the guy just did all the eating challenges?
Man versus food.
Yeah.
Man versus food. He did. Joey Chestnut recommended us that Godzilla burrito, which we tried. And it's not hard to eat because the burrito is big. It's not a good burrito. It's just not a good burrito. I got a section that was just all whipped or sour cream, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't mix the ingredients to any type.
When you're
of
making
level.
it that big, it's got to be tactical. It could get sloppy.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's about it on my end, Bob.
I bought MLB The Show. I am not good at it. I'm really trying, man.
Baseball's hard.
I believe your exact words to me were the hubris I had thinking I can compete on veteran.
No, it was the hubris. It was hubris because that's how I played the other one. I had 2014, but I haven't played any of the ones since then, and my timing on hitting is not good.
Okay,
This is really not good.
Bobby, did you take my advice on how to play the career mode properly? And maybe
No, I
this
haven't
is
done career
improper to
mode yet.
some. This is how you play the career mode, Mike, as someone who's not that big of a fan of baseball. Also, I personally think baseball games take too long because you can shorten quarters in basketball and football. In baseball, you got to play 9 innings. You got to get 3 strikeouts in each inning.
Well, one thing that's good about MLB The Show is that
They got the moments. I know the moments.
no,
But
well, what do you mean the moments?
where it'll just randomly fast forward to segments in the
No,
game.
no.
Three innings go by for no reason.
I don't know about Road to the Show, but I know that for the normal game and for like the franchise mode, when you're playing a game, you can play whatever you want, but then you can go into like the coach mode where you can just sim through like at bats.
Yeah.
Okay. But my pro tip for the career mode is when you select your position, you choose middle reliever pitcher. You don't want to be a starter. You don't want to have the pressure of all them wins. You only want to play some of the games. So as a middle relief pitcher, you get called in like maybe 2 games a week, and then you get drafted to an AL team where you don't have to bat, Bobby. You never have to bat. You just play your 2 innings and keep moving along.
What type of loser mentality is that you want to be a middle reliever? Middle relievers are failed closers, and closers are failed starting pitchers.
Look, Mike, who do you guys give shout-outs to really often is Xavier Woods, right? And you know what he said about pro wrestling? Not everyone's here for the belt. Some of us are just here to be pro wrestlers, make a good living, have a nice, easy life. That's what the middle relief pitcher is all about, Mike.
Mike, what happened to your camera?
Well,
How's that going?
I'm trying to be respectful to you guys because I'm also flossing at the moment. So
Okay, well now we're talking Fast and Furious, so stop flossing. I also bought Ratchet and Clank, but I have not played any minute of it yet because I was playing MLB The Show only. So I got to play that next. All right, Fast and the Furious 9, the 9th movie in the series, 10th movie overall if you include Hobbs and Shaw.
Mark, they did it to you. Are you ready to pick holes in this movie, seeing as we don't care about the Fast franchise?
it's not going to be that hard. It's not going to be very hard.
Yeah, Mike, I need to be able to see you for the love of God so I can turn to you with this thing. Just letting you know. All right, so we pick off where we left off, I think. I don't know. Long story short, Vin Diesel's got a brother, and the brother is out working for the bad guys. And they either kidnapped or killed Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell's character. We say either because the movie ended with no resolution as to that major issue.
Let's also not forget that how could we forget a throwaway line in Fast and Furious 4 where Mia says to Dom, "You're my only brother, I can't lose you."
There is also that, yes. We have John Cena was kicked out of the family for helping, well, we thought he killed his father. No, he was helping his father rig a race. But things went bad, and the car exploded. And Vin kicked him out of the family. Or Dom kicked him out of the family.
Dom Toretto heard Don Omar El Tego Calderon talk some dumb shit about a fucking car thing, and he just assumes, oh yeah, my brother killed their father.
Yeah, there was a lot of flashbacks in this movie. Basically, John Cena's heel turn lasted less than 2 hours. John Cena was a good guy, again, with about 40 minutes left in this movie. So John Cena's part of the crew, obviously. He'll surely be in Fast 10. Things that made no sense. Well, Ludacris and Tyrese went to space. They got in a car, a Fiero, and then Stefan asked about QB1, the guy, Sean from
Lucas Black.
Sean from Fast and Furious 3, Tokyo Drift. Him and Bow Wow, their new business venture, don't know how they ended up doing this, is strapping rockets to shitty cars and sending them out into the sky.
And when you consider that in the Fast and Furious universe, Tokyo Drift actually came like right around Fast and Furious 7, that means maybe 5 years have passed in the Fast and Furious universe since Tokyo Drift, right? So that means Twinkie, that Asian dude, and QB1 should be maybe 22 years old.
Yeah.
They do not look 22 years old.
Yeah, QB1, it looks a clean 45 years old.
Look,
okay?
I'm sorry, when you're got rockets sending cars to space, we can't afford the de-aging technology, guys. I'm sorry. The budget was shifted elsewhere.
So they get
QB1 looked like he was 35 in Tokyo Drift. So there's also that.
So they got to space, right? And they're supposed to hack a satellite or something? Because Ludacris, being a mechanic, as he was when he was introduced in this series, is going to hack a satellite. However, shit doesn't work for some reason. So instead, they use Nas,
just one more thing. I was talking to Bobby about this before the podcast. He never saw this show, but one observation I had to him when Tyrese and Ludacris got to space was, this is like the plot to Homeboys in Outer Space, which was an old show on UPN. So for those of you that have watched that show, you're out there laughing right now.
So so they're up top. Luda can't hack it. He's like, "What do we do, man? We're up here. They need us to do something with this satellite." And Tyrese says he has faith. And then they turn on the Nas, and then they drive the car in space and break the satellite like it's made of paper mache, and save the day. Francis Ngannou's in this movie. Francis Ngannou is killed in under 5 minutes by Han. Han, who died in the Fast and Furious 3, by the way, is back and alive. He's alive in this one. He throws a bomb at Francis. It gets stuck to him, and then he kicks Francis out the back of a truck, and his parachute opens, and Francis explodes. 5 minutes. Francis is dead real quick.
They don't teach you how to defend that in the MMA.
No, they don't. Cardi B's in this movie for no reason. Just in this movie. Just shows up. And she has a conversation with Vin Diesel where I understood no words, really. Because Vin is talking like Vin. And then Cardi B says some shit. And then Vin says more shit. And then that's the end of the scene.
I know there's been a lot of movies and I guess a lot of characters have come through the door. But I have no idea how they know each other.
No.
This is the weakest Deus Ex Machina I have ever seen. Like, I don't understand why Cardi B was in this movie at all. I don't understand a lot of things about this movie.
No, things are just going to happen in this movie. Paul Walker's character is still alive in Fast and the Furious kayfabe, I guess, in the story. But so instead of him coming, though, he stays home with the kids, and Jordana Brewster, in these last 3 movies, appears to become a black belt in Muay Thai. She learned how to fight. There's just a lot going on in this movie. It's long, but I wouldn't say I got bored. It just shit was happening for over 2 hours. And then there's a post-credit scene with Jason Statham where Han knocks on his door and Jason Statham's like, oh shit, I thought I killed you. Yeah. They're going to make 2 more of these, and they went to space in this one. They've been in a submarine. They fought with tanks. The Mark mentioned time travel. Now I'm convinced time travel's happening in the next one. So, yeah.
I feel you glossed over many of the ludicrous moments in this movie.
Go ahead, man.
And by ludicrous, I don't mean Chris Bridges. I just mean ludicrous moments. I feel we need to go back to the homeboys in space part of this.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, let's go back to even before they went into outer space. Going back to the aforementioned Tokyo boys, they were street drifters in the first movie.
Yes.
Bow Wow had an Incredible Hulk truck. All right, that was his arc in the first movie. He was black in Tokyo with an Incredible Hulk truck, and somehow now they are fucking rocket scientists, right?
Yes.
And apparently, they're just giving out rocket scientist degrees at the local community college. Because in addition to these guys learning fucking rocket science within the 5 years of this universe's timeline, so did Ludacris. Ludacris, when something fucks up in their space hoopty, he basically he's all pissed because how did I think about that? Like, these wires would get like crossed up when the fucking jet goes off in the space hoopty. Oh man, I am so stupid. How could I not think about that? My man was organizing jet ski races in the second movie.
I just wanted to say Tyrese is my favorite part of these movies because Tyrese is funny. He's made fun of. He's not overpowered.
Tyrese is going meta. All right. Tyrese is starting to become like Abed from Community, right? Because he's like speaking as the audience now in this movie. Where first scene, like the first big action scene of the movie, he is literally and if we haven't said this already, spoiler alert. There is a scene in this movie where he is literally surrounded by the army of whatever in the script Latin American country they're in. I don't even know if they said what country they're in, but he is literally surrounded. He is Anakin not having the high ground, and he is just shot at from every which angle, and he comes out unscathed, right? And he talks about how, like, hey, guys, I think we're invincible. Like, look at all the bullshit that we have gone through over the last 6 movies. He doesn't say this in the last 6 movies, but like, come on, let's face it. And he says, like, yeah, I think we're literally invincible. And I'm there in the movie watching this, just thinking, yeah, no shit. There is a lot of bullshit that goes on in these movies. I think in a set of movies that have continuously jumped the shark, but we all still love it, I think this movie might have gone a bit too far for me. I think even it's jumped the shark for me, especially in the part when Dom, I can't even describe the goddamn move. He somehow has to get across a whole fucking chasm, and he like drifts into like a part of rope which wraps around the fucking tire of his car, and my man swings that shit like fucking Tarzan and somehow ends up on the other side. Yeah,
that happened. He just knew it was there too. And then nobody sits down and says, man, how do we do that? Just I think Michelle Rodriguez goes, well, that's new. And we all move on with our lives. I don't know what your expectations were, man. That movie did everything it needed to do for me.
Mike, I was going to say, if you usually when you get to chapter 9 of something, you're in. You're not going anywhere. When Bobby asked me what I thought of the last Star Wars movie, to all the public derision, you know what I said, Mike? I liked it. I enjoyed that movie.
I will say that at the end of this movie, when whatever country's astronauts ended up, picking up Tyrese and Ludacris while in outer space.
That is true. Someone had to pick up. Some astronauts came across Tyrese and Luda up there because when they used the NOS, that was their way home.
Wait, did we actually see that occur?
That they use NOS?
They turned on the NOS.
No, that astronauts picked them up, or is it a mystery? Okay,
no. The astronauts said in whatever Eastern European language. Are they in a Fiero?
A Fiero, yes, they were in a Fiero.
Because I'm about to spoil another movie that I don't expect anyone's going to watch at this point. But I was like, did we get the Gravity ending where George Clooney just drifts away into space, even though everyone said that if Sandra Bullock just gave a little tug, the no gravity would have brought him back, but she just let him drift forever into eternity?
I definitely thought at the end of this movie, how the hell are they going to top this movie with just what? Are you kidding me? Did they really just do that? I don't know how they're going to top it. They have 2 more movies left, apparently, in this franchise. No, I think Vin Diesel said that's it. 2 more.
Sure. Until that kid of theirs.
Until The Rock takes over in the next one.
Yeah. Mark told us what's happening next. It's time travel. That's where we're going. It has to happen.
Yeah, you gotta have a big endgame movie. They go back in time.
And the last one.
Get the chosen
the last
part.
one where capping in on popular tropes is the family is all that remains in the zombie apocalypse. And
I'm sure if you guys have been on the internet the past week or so, there's a lot of memes about no matter what difficult situation Vin Diesel is in, he says so and so might be tough, but we got family or something. There's no family.
I think my favorite one is when he's going to fight Darth Vader with a shotgun, and the meme just says, "Nothing as powerful as family." And then the next picture is him cut in half.
Yeah, man. I call this movie series Scumbag Avengers. This is what it is, man. This movie they keep going. The whole universe is out there. And again, the main plot point of the movie was what happened to Mr. Nobody, I felt, and we don't know. We don't know how that got resolved. Is he dead? Did they help? What happened? And Charlize Theron, yet again, the bad guy, extending into another movie after this. So, I heard she's going to get her own spinoff. Because that character is so interesting. So interesting.
I mean, I love looking at Charlize Theron, but I mean...
Her character is terrible.
Yeah, Cypher could have been done after the first movie.
Oh, the one thing I do want to say, I thought that... I forgot the name of her character on Game of Thrones. But, Ramsay? Missandei. She had a little piece of business where they needed her to drive, and she said she doesn't know how to drive, and I'm like,
all right.
I like that. That was genuinely, gave me a chuckle. That was nice.
You know what? You asked me earlier what was my favorite thing in the movie. It was that scene. That scene was pretty goddamn funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of comedy. Like, this person doesn't know how to drive in this whole thing.
And you actually speaking about Ramsay, that's her name in the movie. One actual critique I would have of this movie is that it seems the main MacGuffin in the movie is very redundant to what was just done 2 movies ago in Furious 7, where tell me if you've heard this before, those of you that have watched Furious 7. There is some techno shit that will go over the entire world, and it will basically lead to whoever has control of it, world domination, right? And they introduce a kick-ass female character who is the key to controlling said technological thing. That was the plot of God's Eye and Ramsay in Furious 7, and that's also the plot for, I forget what the fuck the thing is called in this movie as well. And the new girl they introduced, I think her name was Elle in this movie. So at one point in the movie, I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I've seen this before in a Fast and Furious movie. Yep.
Anyway, Fast 10.
Han is back. That was great. Yeah. The explanation for how he came back was laughable.
Han was a secret agent that whole time in Tokyo Drift. By the way, whole time he was a secret agent. That was what was going on. Anyway, that's it for this week. Real quick breaking news. We got a featherweight main event booked between Edson Barboza and Giga Chikadze. Giga's trying to come off of that win against Cub Swanson and his 6 straight wins to start off his UFC career. Trying to show he's even further show he's legit by taking on Edson Barboza in a 5-round main event at the end of August. I do appreciate that Edson Barboza appears to be the proving ground for any and all featherweights in the UFC. It's how we know if you're legit or not. We make you get kicked by Edson Barboza and see if you survive. Anyway, we'll be back next week. We're going to see what's next for Conor McGregor because no matter what happens in this fight, that's going to be the main talking point. Doesn't matter. That's what we're talking about. We know what's next if Dustin Poirier wins because he's fighting for the championship. Till then, I was Dr. Law. That was Kid Presentable. That was DJ Mark. And that was Lavender Gooms, flanked by both Vin Diesel and John Cena. See y'all next week. Peace out.
See ya.
Cheers. Peace.